Righto, here we are again, back in the shed. It's been a little while and not too much progress has been made. I've been busy with other things, but yeah, we're pretty much, here's where we're at. Now, I was kind of getting frustrated with this. Hang on, I'll just open this door so I can get a bit of natural light in here. That's better. Yeah, so I was kind of getting frustrated with this. Like, what I always knew was going to be the problem wasn't going to be attaching the Haltech loom to the engine. That was all quite self-explanatory. What was always going to be the problem was integrating that with TVR, with the TVR stuff. And if I knew what I was doing, it would have been a whole lot easier. But I had to sort of work it out as I went. And so basically what I've got now is, this is everything. And in amongst all this mess here, I have, well, this is going to be my fuel pump. And then down on this, where is it? Oh, no, this section here, you can see where I've, that's all the other stuff. Well, that's taco, aircon acknowledge, aircon request. Yeah, basically I kind of worked it out. Now if you look on the TVR, I actually found this page here, which is quite useful. So this is the plug for the ECU. This is the plug that goes to the engine, and this is the plug that sort of comes from the car. And you can see some of those wires just go straight through to the engine loom, and some of them go through to the ECU. And the thing that sort of did my head in was the aircon, because I know if I get this thing running up and running and driving without the aircon working, I'm not going to want to pull it apart again to try and work out how to get the aircon going. So I sort of said to myself, I've got to get the aircon going, so I need to work that out. And nothing seemed to be making sense. Like you press the button for aircon on the dash and nothing would light up. Yeah, like I couldn't, none of the signals, none of these wires seemed to change, and I couldn't work it out. So I actually found an old post on piston heads that kind of explained it all. So basically you press the button on the dash, it sends the signal to the little box, and then that sends its signal through the trinary switch, or maybe the trinary switch is before the box. The trinary switch is basically a pressure switch with a high and a low setting, and then that sends it through to, where is it, AC request. And AC request, that goes to the ECU, and that's a switch, I believe that's a switch positive. But then the AC acknowledge that comes from the ECU, that's a switched earth, a switched negative. And what I couldn't wrap my head around was, when you go to this plug here with the AC acknowledge, this one was positive, like it was live positive. I'm thinking, how, you know, I don't know, I just had a mental block. I couldn't work out why that was. And then I read it and it's like, okay, so the output from the ECU needs to be a switched earth. And so when the ECU says, yep, you're good for air conditioning, like you're over a certain RPM or whatever, and the engine's not overheating or whatever things are in the Haltech, I haven't even looked, but it'll send the negative to that AC acknowledge, which will then, which goes to that little box there, and that activates a relay, which then does your clutch, like livens up your clutch. And away you go. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Probably missed a few things out there. I think it needs to have the fans going as well. But yeah, that kind of stumped me, but now I've wrapped my head around it. And as you can see here, this is the plug. This is that plug. And I've got here sort of AC clutch, tacho, AC request. I switched 12 volt to turn the ECU on, alternator, and also there's fuel pump. I haven't got that marked in there, but that's going to be the fuel pump. And that was another one that sort of had me stumped. I don't know, I'm not much of an auto electrician, but that's a switched earth as well. So when you put your little test light on the test, I've got one of these. These things are great. It's not on now, but basically you can probe that and get your voltage. I should probably plug it in, but well, you can look it up. You get what I mean. You put your probe in, and it'll tell you what the voltage is, positive or negative, and then you can press that and just throw 12 volts positive or 12 volts negative to the probe. So that's how you can sort of say, well, that's how I worked out that the fuel pump is switched by negative, because when you probe that plug for the fuel pump, it comes up as 12 volt positive. But then when you press this bad boy and throw the negative to it, the fuel pump fires up. So yeah, I'm not much of an auto sparky, but I'm learning. So where am I at now? Well, this here, I've been watching videos online of how to de-pin Haltech connectors. So basically, really, it's kind of annoying, but I've got to strip off this covering and go to these plugs and basically get rid of everything that I don't need. I mean, I don't know if you can see, there's a little teeny tiny hole there in the firewall, and I'm not going to be dragging all of that unneeded stuff through the firewall. So yeah, basically going to strip that off, take out all the things I don't need, and yeah, re-wrap it, or at least sort of give it a bit of a tape up, get it through, get it plugged in. I've got to run a vacuum line for the map sensor, because it's got a onboard map sensor in the Haltech. So I've got, where is it? This line here, which goes to both the, goes to both the throttle bodies. That actually goes back, well, on my setup, that actually goes back to the fuel tank. That's like keeps a bit of vacuum on the fuel tank. Jesus, camera's horrible today. It's putting these black lines in, but yeah, so that's where I'm at. And also, while I've at least got some TVR people watching, this is my window wiper box. So, and boy, has it let out the smoke. I did actually email the bloke in the UK who apparently is the go-to man for like rebuilding them, but he hasn't replied yet. So I don't know, it looks quite simple, but I don't know anything about this. That looks pretty heavily fried to me. I don't know, can that be fixed? Or do you just make a new one? I don't know, I don't think it's a particularly complex circuit board, but I don't know anything about that. So I think at some point, well, also I'd like to know why it fried. So it happened about the same time as I started messing with stuff under the bonnet. So I'm wondering if I haven't shorted something out, and yeah, and boy, it stinks, eh? There's no smell of old British leather in the car anymore. It's just burnt plastic from this, well, from this thing. So yeah, all right, so I'm going to start stripping and depinning, and I'll see you after that. Right, here we are, a few hours later. I've had dinner and I've managed to trim it down to that, which is yeah, not bad going. So basically now I've put this stupid connector here. I think that's a good idea. That's for the starter motor, but this is basically the plug that plugs into the body of the car, and yeah, that is basically got to go at the end of this. So there's the ECU, and the ECU is going to be sitting right where that plug up there has got to go. So that plug will be sitting right about there. And here's the big power outputs for the ignition and injection. These are the two cables for the wide band, odd, as you can see there, even, odd. That comes from under the car. They've got to plug in, well, one of these, I'll have to look into that actually, but yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. So I've got to run from that one there. There'll be an alternator wire that just runs along with this loom and goes to the alternator excite, and this bad boy here is going to be the air conditioning compressor, yeah, which tees into, is it here? It's around here somewhere. Oh, actually I think it's over here. Oh yeah, is here. That's the aircon compressor. And I've got a new toy, got a hydraulic crimper. I don't probably might have been able to get away without using this, getting this, but I do like to have many tools at my disposal. Because the Haltech, why is it so dark? I don't know, weird stuff going on, but anyway, that's the come out in the open. That's the plug that the Haltech has that connects to the ECU, and that needs to be crimped onto one of these great big, what is it, 4AW or whatever cables. So you really need a proper crimper for that. And that plugs into this here. I need a vacuum line, so that will be sort of, yeah, I'll explain that before. Anyway, yeah, so tomorrow I'll start doing that, and I'll see you then. Righto, hello again. Back in the shed. Well, I got it to run very poorly. It's backfiring through a few of the cylinders. Obviously there's something wrong. I set the timing to number 1 cylinder on my mark on the front pulley. Yeah, that worked out. Yeah, no problem. I double checked all my wiring to the coils, because I've got individual coils there. I think every cylinder is firing, but it's just backfiring through the throttle body. So I think maybe my crank angle thing, I don't know, some of you might have seen on Facebook and on the forum, I was asking about the crank angle set up for the angle at which it triggers each cylinder for this type of motor. That could be it, but I'm not sure. I'm about to go back to work this afternoon for 2 weeks, so I've kind of gotten up this morning and sort of just sort of put it on hold. I don't want to be trying to problem solve with you know, the clock ticking down. It's only going to end badly. Another thing, my coolant temperature sensor is way down there. I've got that on the crossover line there, which I'm not sure is the best idea ever, but it was the only place that was sort of easy to put a sensor in. As you can see here, the way these plugs work, you're meant to be able to, well, see this blue plastic bit here, you're meant to be able to slide that across and just pull the pins out. As you can see, that didn't happen, but I'm reading my coolant temperature, I'm reading like 130 degrees, but when you touch the 5-volt wire and the signal wire together, it goes to -30, which makes me think, well, the wiring is right. Maybe I've just got a dud sensor, and my air intake temperature is like 120 degrees, but I haven't actually got into fault finding that yet. But overall, everything else seems to be reading. My crank home signal's reading. Even the flex fuel sensors showing like 2% ethanol, which is, you know, it shouldn't have any ethanol in it, but that's yeah, that's acceptable. Yeah, so what's the plan? Well, the plan is go to work for 2 weeks. Maybe I'll need to get the pen and paper out and try and work out this crank angle thing and come up with a slightly different plan. There were a few other suggestions from random people on the internet as to what it might be, so maybe I'll give those a go. But yeah, I'm sure it's something I've done. It's not a Haltech issue. It's something that I've done in the setting and the configuration that's not quite right. But I only really tried to fire it yesterday, and yeah, today I'm going back to work. So this is a job for next break. Yeah. Otherwise, I've got a bit of an oil leak, but I don't know if you can see down in there, but I kind of know what that is. Way back when, the steel line that comes out of the oil pump, I remade that because it had been rubbing on the anti-roll bar and it was like paper thin. So I remade a new one, but at the time I didn't have a TIG welder, I only had a MIG welder, so I MIG welded the fitting on the end, and that weld is a bit porous, so I think I really got to pull that off. Now I've got a TIG welder, clean it up, strip all the paint off and just go over it with the TIG torch and just sort of fill in those little pinhole holes that are leaking. Yeah, apart from that, that's it. Yeah, I'm sure I'll solve the problem. Alright, until next time, goodbye.